Hello, soul family. Welcome to Spiritual Manifestation. If this is your first time, welcome. If not, I'm glad to have you home. Let's take a breath together because something already feels aligned in the energy today. Before I even started pulling cards, I could feel it, a quiet nudge from Spirit that this was going to be one of those readings where the divine masculine shows up. Not just to peek in from the shadows, but to speak. And as soon as I shuffled, I felt a shift, like something opening. There's healing in the air, reconciliation, a soul finally facing their truth. Now, if you're new here, I always like to remind us, when we talk about divine masculine or divine feminine, we're not assigning gender. These are energetic frequencies that live within all of us. The masculine often shows up as the part of us or another person that's learning how to take aligned action, confront ego, or come back to truth. The feminine, that's the space of knowing, of intuition, of love that flows even when things don't make sense. So whether this message speaks to someone you're thinking about, or a part of you that's rising or healing, just trust what resonates and leave the rest. Spirit knows how to deliver exactly what you need in perfect timing. Let's pull the first card and see where this energy takes us. I just pulled the Hermit. The moment this card came out, I felt it in my whole body. This reading is all about inner healing. The Hermit is that quiet, powerful moment when someone realizes they've been running on autopilot, avoiding the truth of what's going on inside. And for the divine masculine energy showing up here, that truth is starting to break through. Spirit is showing me a masculine who's been pulled into silence, not to abandon or escape, but because there's something deep within him that needs to be understood. This is the kind of spiritual pause that changes everything, and it's not just personal, it's collective. You might feel it too. And here's the thing, your intuition already knows what's happening. You've probably been sensing this inner nudge, this gentle pull to slow down, to be still, to listen more closely to yourself. Maybe you've felt like journaling more often, or you've found yourself craving solitude even in the middle of your usual routines. That's your inner masculine rising. That's you aligning with a greater healing. Because the messages we're channeling here today, they're not just about someone else. They're for the feminine within you, the masculine within you, and the way those energies are dancing and growing through this shift. Spirit keeps showing me this masculine as someone who's starting to realize that if he truly wants peace, real, lasting peace, it has to begin inside. And for the first time in a long time, he's starting to face the places within himself where the wounds still ache. He's not just acknowledging the pain, he's asking why it's there. He's remembering what it felt like to long for something soft, something steady, and recognizing that he's the one who kept pushing it away. There's a part of him whispering, if I want to build something real, I have to get honest with myself first. And that honesty is starting to crack through his defenses like sunlight through a wall. Now I did hear the word sabotage, and it hit me hard. Spirit showed me a pigeon right after that, a symbol that caught me off guard. But when I looked into it more deeply, it all made sense. Pigeons, just like doves, are symbols of peace, loyalty, and sacred connection. But we can't ignore what that means. If there's an olive branch, then there had to be a flood. There had to be some kind of emotional storm that tore through this connection, something that overwhelmed them to the point of collapse. This feels like someone from your past, someone you gave your light to, only to watch them panic under the weight of it. It wasn't that they didn't care. It was that they didn't know how to receive something so pure without trying to protect themselves. So they sabotaged it. Not because they didn't want it, but because they weren't ready to hold it. Now they're waking up to that. The storm has passed, and they're standing in the quiet of its aftermath, finally seeing what they've done. They're realizing they've been running from the very thing they've been praying for. And even though they might not be saying it out loud yet, their soul is aching to reach out, to find peace, to come back home, not just to you, but to the part of themselves they lost when they pushed love away. And now, Spirit says they're learning how to choose it for real this time. The next card I pulled is the High Priestess. And wow, the moment I laid eyes on her, I felt it in my chest. This is you, Divine Feminine, and it's also the energy that's calling the masculine forward now. The High Priestess is the guardian of intuition, of sacred inner truth. And what's wild is that this card showed up right as I was channeling this flood of energy about trusting what you feel, even when it doesn't make sense. Because that's exactly where this story is going. This is a masculine who tried to understand your connection through logic. He wanted charts, signs, linear answers, and things that made sense on paper. But this connection, this love, it was never meant to be decoded like that. I keep hearing 717. That number might mean something personal to you, but collectively, I feel it's speaking about a new beginning, a spiritual one. And this masculine, through knowing you, meeting you, or even thinking of you, is being pulled into something much deeper than romance. This was never just about love on the surface. It was about awakening. You were the activation. You were the thing that triggered everything they didn't understand, but couldn't ignore. And it overwhelmed them, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. They didn't have the language for what they felt, and so they shut it down. But now, after time away, there's a change. I saw clouds parting, and it's symbolic. The fog of doubt they've lived in is clearing. And for the first time, they're not trying to figure out what this connection is. They're just starting to feel it. There's this massive shift from, I need to understand it, to, I'm learning to trust it. That's what this throat chakra energy is all about. The masculine may want to speak soon, not just to explain, but to share something raw and honest about what they've been experiencing inside. But more than the words, it's the energy behind it that matters. They're finally listening to something real, inside of themselves. The strongest emotion I feel from them right now is doubt. But it's not the same doubt as before. It's softer, quieter, more like, what if this was real all along? And that doubt is slowly dissolving into trust. I actually heard those exact words. Trust is replacing doubt. That inner voice they've been ignoring for so long is finally coming through, and they're learning to let it guide them. And for you, Divine Feminine, I feel you're going through this same journey in parallel. You've been in your own version of this awakening, this healing, this learning to trust what you feel, even when the world gives you no proof. You don't need all the answers anymore. You're not chasing clarity. You are the clarity. And here's what's even more powerful about this. You've been holding the vibration of trust, even when it didn't make sense to. Even when things looked silent, confusing, or flat out disappointing, you still chose to believe in the unseen. And that choice, it didn't just shift you, it created a ripple. Whether you realize it or not, the masculine feels it. He may not know how to name it, but something in his soul is responding to your energy now, like a compass finally picking up the signal it was always looking for. Because when the feminine stands in truth, calm, clear, unbothered, the masculine begins to remember who he really is. And that remembering, it's pulling him back to you. It feels like you are the living temple now. Your heart, your body, your intuition, it's all a sacred space. And this masculine is beginning to feel it, even if he doesn't have the words for what this connection is. He knows it's real. He knows it's rare. And now, more than ever, he's being asked to trust that love doesn't always need to be understood to be true. Now, the card I just pulled is the Hierophant. And immediately I felt the weight of it, not in a heavy way, but in a sacred way. This card is like a spiritual contract in motion. It's the keeper of tradition, higher learning, and soul agreements. And it makes so much sense that this card would come through now, especially with all the sacred imagery that's been coming in. I'm seeing this connection between you and your divine masculine as something far deeper than a typical relationship. This is a soul covenant, a spiritual agreement, something that was written before either of you even arrived in this lifetime. And it's that energetic truth, the one buried beneath the confusion, the silence, the human doubt, that's been holding the two of you in place, even when everything else feels uncertain. I feel that for some of you listening, you've been asking, why can't I let this go? And you've tried, haven't you? You've tried to walk away, to shut your heart, to move on, and yet something keeps pulling you back. And here's what Spirit is showing me. It's mutual. Even if the masculine has worn a mask, stayed quiet, or pretended he's unbothered, it's not the truth. He's just better at hiding it. Because what you're both feeling, it's the energy of a sacred contract not yet fulfilled. It's that deep knowing that there's more here, more to learn, more to heal, more to grow through. That stuck feeling isn't a punishment, it's a signal, a sign that there's still spiritual evolution happening inside this dynamic. And this is where your power comes in, divine feminine. The mind wants resolution. It wants labels, logic, and closure. But your soul, it's calling you into surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means allowing yourself to be where you are without judgment. Saying, I feel what I feel. I'm connected to who I'm connected to. And even if I don't understand it fully right now, I'm choosing to stop resisting what is. That resistance has been draining you. That loop of doubt, overthinking, and trying to solve this connection like a puzzle, it's exhausting. But now Spirit is inviting you to gather that energy and bring it home, back to yourself. There's something beautifully ironic about this journey. The more you try to make sense of it with your mind, the heavier it feels. But the moment you breathe into your heart, everything softens. That's because this isn't a logic-based connection, it's a soul-based one. And your soul already knows what this is. That's why it lingers in your dreams, why it echoes in your silence, why no matter how many times you've tried to forget, something always stirs again. Spirit is saying this: you're not stuck. You're being shaped, molded, refined. You're not meant to run from the intensity. You're meant to rise through it, to let it open you instead of close you. And that shift is what turns longing into power. Imagine what could shift if you stopped questioning and just trusted. If you redirected all that mental energy into nurturing yourself, into pouring into your gifts, your art, your healing, your joy. You don't need to chase meaning anymore. You are the meaning. And by choosing to stand in your presence, in your fullness, without demanding answers, you actually begin to live the answer. That's the real evolution. That's the transformation that shifts everything, not just for you, but for this connection too. Because when one soul rises in awareness, the other feels it. And your surrender is what makes room for the masculine to rise too. Moving on, the card I just pulled is Judgment. And instantly, I got chills. This card doesn't just mark a shift, it is the shift. Judgment is about soul awakening, truth rising, and the moment where everything that was hidden finally comes up to the surface. And that's exactly what this feels like. Something big is breaking open. And not just for your masculine, but for you too. This is your personal resurrection. The moment where you stop seeing your past as a series of wounds and start seeing it as the soul training that prepared you for this spiritual remembering. You're not just healing anymore, you're expanding. You're waking up to the deeper layers of your purpose, your gifts, your voice. This phrase keeps coming through loud and clear. Acceptance opens all doors. And with judgment on the table, it's not just poetic, it's divine instruction. You're being shown that the more you lean into where you are now, instead of trying to mentally solve the journey, the more everything starts to move. And I'm hearing this so strongly. You were never stuck. You were being shown. Shown how powerful you are. Shown how deeply you're protected. Shown what it means to truly trust your path, even when it doesn't look like the one you planned. This is about surrendering to your healing with open arms, without rushing, without judging, just being in it fully. Because this phase, as uncomfortable or confusing as it may feel, is where your soul grows the most. Spirit gave me doors of perception, and I had to pause. It's like the moment you stop running mental loops and just breathe into the now, your entire view of reality shifts. You start seeing beyond the surface. You feel the life force behind things. You understand people in a way that transcends language. And that level of vision, it doesn't come from ease. It comes from experience, from living many lives inside one lifetime. I feel someone here has walked through so many different realities, roles, and identities. Maybe even asked, why is my path so layered, so hard to explain? But this is your answer. You were designed for multidimensional empathy. You were meant to be a mirror, a healer, a bridge between worlds. And this ability to hold compassion for others in such a deep, intuitive way, it's part of your calling. Now here's where the masculine comes back into the picture. I feel someone, very specific, who is standing on the edge of a decision. And it's not a small one. This is someone who's lived one version of life for so long, but something in them is cracking open. They want to shift timelines. They want to reach for something that feels real, sacred, and soul aligned. And that something, it's you. You are the doorway, the mirror, the missed path they're now trying to find their way back to. But here's the catch. Spirit has blocked access until now, because your energy, your life, your soul journey, it's protected. And this masculine had to learn the hard way what it means to walk away from divine alignment. He made choices. He exercised free will. And those choices altered the course of your shared destiny. And what's even more divine about this moment is that your soul knew this all along, even in the silence, even in the grief, even in the confusion where nothing made sense and everything felt like it had fallen apart. A deeper part of you always sensed that this wasn't the end. It was the initiation, the fire that would forge something greater. And now, you're being shown why it had to happen this way, why the timeline had to split, why you had to lose him to find yourself. Because only when you stood in your own truth could this mirror be cleared. Only when you chose yourself could this sacred path become visible again, not just to you, but to him. And now that he's seeing it again, the pull is undeniable. And because of that, you had to carry the balancing alone. You had to heal on your own, transmute the pain on your own, and walk forward, even when it felt like you were leaving half of your soul behind. But now, this judgment card is showing us something has shifted. The call is being heard again. The contract is being remembered. And the masculine, he's seeking re-entry, not just into your life, but into the sacred path he once abandoned. The path where his heart could finally rest, where his soul could finally evolve. But the question is, will you recognize him again if he comes back as someone new? The card I just pulled is the Two of Swords. And when I held it in my hands, the energy was loud, even in its silence. This is the card of indecision, of being split between two truths. And how perfect is that, considering what we're feeling right now? You and your divine masculine were supposed to meet in the middle of this sacred path. It was written, it was guided, and at some point, your soul was ready. You felt the call and you answered it. But the masculine, he hesitated. He paused at the crossroads. And instead of surrendering to the ease and destiny of this connection, he listened to the voice of fear. Fear of getting trapped. Fear of losing himself. Fear of being fully seen and known by someone who felt too close to truth. And here's what Spirit is making so clear. The reason this connection felt like it lost momentum was not because it wasn't real. It was because his fear overpowered his faith. He didn't walk away because he didn't care. He walked away because his soul wasn't strong enough yet to stay. He felt your light and mistook it for a trap. He mistook depth for danger. He mistook peace for pressure. And what's painful about this moment is that you still felt the pull, even after he disengaged. You were left holding a rope that suddenly went slack, still tethered to a sacred contract that now felt suspended in midair. And that's the emotional conflict. One of you answered the call, while the other silenced it. What Spirit keeps showing me is that you were meant to balance your internal divine masculine and divine feminine energy together through shared presence, through shared growth, through a physical and spiritual union that was guided, fated, sacred. But because he turned away, you were the one left to do the balancing alone. You had to carry both energies within your own body. You had to strengthen the masculine within you, the one who takes action, creates structure, shows up. And you also had to deepen the feminine within you, the one who holds, trusts, nurtures. This wasn't the original plan, but your soul adapted. You rose through an alternate path. And what no one really talks about is how confusing this has been for you. Because when your soul says yes, but reality says no, it can leave you questioning your own intuition. Was it all in your head? Were you just dreaming too big, feeling too deeply, hoping too much? But Spirit is saying, no, you weren't wrong. You weren't naive. You were early. You felt the truth before he was ready to face it. And now you're being shown that the connection didn't fail. It paused. It detoured. And even though it hurt, that pause was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of how powerful this connection really is, and how much growth it demanded from both of you to ever stand a chance at surviving in the real world. And now, after walking that other timeline, one full of hardship, unfulfillment, and spiritual resistance, this masculine is circling back. He's remembering the call he once denied. His heart chakra, once guarded, is cracking open from the weight of his own choices. And suddenly, your name is echoing in the silence. He's reaching out, not just to you, but to the timeline he left behind. He wants re-entry, he wants reconnection. But this isn't just about whether he comes back, it's about whether he returns as the version of himself that can finally stay. Because he used his free will to walk away before. And now the question is, does he have the courage to use it differently this time? The final card I pulled is the Six of Pentacles. And I have to tell you, this couldn't be more fitting. This is the card of balance restored, of energetic reciprocity, and of finally receiving in full what you've been pouring out for so long. And what I feel immediately is that this has never just been about one person or one union. It's been about your full spiritual activation. Your guides had a plan. And when the masculine chose a different path, when he backed away from the sacred timeline, it didn't end your story. It rerouted your power. It took what was supposed to happen through him and rerouted it through Spirit, through connections, signs, people, places, energies that felt like echoes of something divine, support systems that showed up just when you needed them most, even if they weren't meant to stay. This path, it hasn't been linear. It's felt like side quests, detours, and chapters that left you wondering, what is the point of this? And yet, here you are, stronger, clearer, wiser, because in the absence of that fully embodied divine masculine presence, you became the balance. You grew both the structure and the softness within. You learned how to hold yourself in ways you once thought only someone else could. And even though parts of the journey have been lonely or confusing, especially when you met masculine energies who felt familiar but not quite right, Spirit is saying, They were never meant to be the destination. They were part of the calibration, part of the process that helped you rise into your full, balanced, and magnetic self. And now there's a shift. Something is coming back into balance, not just spiritually, but physically. I'm seeing restoration, reconnection, a chance to write a new agreement. Maybe that's with the masculine who's waking up and remembering, or maybe it's someone new who's ready to meet you in the vibration you now live in. But what matters most, you are no longer reaching, you are receiving. You're not begging for clarity or love or validation. You are the clarity. You are the love. And the right energies can now find you, not because you're chasing them, but because you're aligned with them. So here's what Spirit wants you to hold as we close this reading. You didn't miss your path. You walked it. And where you're standing now, it's powerful. It's sacred. It's protected. The masculine may circle back, but this time you'll meet him from a place of wholeness, of wisdom, of knowing, because you're not just hoping for balance anymore. You embody it, and that changes everything. What's also rising to the surface right now is how much grace it took for you to keep walking without clarity, to keep showing up for your journey even when the original plan fell through. That's not easy. That's not light work. And yet, you did it. You stayed open when it would have been easier to close. You chose softness in a world that told you to harden. And you kept your heart pointed toward healing even when the mirror was empty. Spirit wants you to know how rare that is, how powerful that is. Because that posture of surrender, that's what made room for this entire shift. Some of you may look back and still feel a sting of sadness, of what could have been, of the love that almost was, and Spirit sees that too. It's okay to grieve the timeline that didn't play out, but what you're stepping into now is not a consolation prize. It's a divine culmination. This moment is the fruit of everything you've alchemized behind the scenes. The versions of you that cried, questioned, kept going anyway, they are all woven into the power you hold today. And now the right people, the right love, the right support, it can finally find you because your frequency no longer reaches for survival. It reaches for alignment. And this masculine, whether he returns or not, his soul has changed because of you. You were the catalyst, the trigger for his awakening. And even if he never speaks all the words, Spirit says he knows. He remembers. He feels your name in his bones. And if his soul chooses to rise, to meet you where you are now, it won't be out of obligation or guilt. It'll be because he finally understands, because he finally chose himself, and in doing so, found the path back to you. Either way, you're already on your divine path, and everything from here forward will meet you where you truly stand, in truth, in wholeness, in love. Okay, this feels like a beautiful place to close the reading. You've done the work, you've held the mirror, and now you're being called to receive, fully, freely, without chasing. The path ahead is already unfolding, and you are exactly where you need to be. Take a deep breath, hold your heart, and remember, what's meant for you is already on its way, with clarity, with intention, with love that knows exactly where to find you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.